Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope everybody is safe and sound, and I hope you can hear me as well. Could you please confirm in the chat box that my voice is loud and clear or on the
Yes,
mic?
ma'am.
Okay,
It's clear.
right. So I think the other day when we left, we were talking about the soliloquies, and I started with first two. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. And I did share another document as well that mentions soliloquies. Now, one document that we were doing on campus was a little difficult. So I found another one which had more lines because you had a question कि कौन सी line हम focus या lines focus करेंगे. So the document that you were reading on campus was this. Let me show it to you, in which we had this discussion जहाँ हमने ये पढ़ा था कि soliloquies कितनी हैं कहाँ पर हैं तो एक reference उसका definitely आपके सामने था. There are 7 soliloquies and their references are given over here. However, we also talked about the first soliloquy and how it was about his distress. Junior Hamlet was in pain because his father was dead and his uncle had married his mother, so he was uttering this soliloquy aloud. Now we'll go to another document which has an easier way to differentiate between soliloquy and asides as well, and why soliloquy has been used and how. This is written by these people: Farzana Nasreen, Mehdi Hassan, Kulsum Begum, Atiullah, and Munibur Rahman. And the article, this is a research article. I have found one thing to be interesting for you guys, that I should bring research articles in the classes, because the readings that I'm bringing, some of you are not able to comprehend them completely because they are written in proper academic language. So we'll be residing or relying more over the research articles, and I'll find some articles जो कि आपको आसानी से समझ आएंगे. Research article में सबसे important part होता है बेटे abstract, in which they actually simply talk about what they have done in the research article and what you will find in it. So I'll just read few lines for you so that you know how it's going on. Now, in Shakespeare's Hamlet, the tragic hero reveals his inner conflicts and introspective attitude in each of the lengthy soliloquies. Now, Junior Hamlet is a dynamic character who has these strong thoughts, and they are dramatically portrayed in each of the soliloquies. Remember the story, you should know the story, of course, but we are more inclined towards the character development and the conflict development within the story. Now, each of the soliloquies, they which have been explored in this document. They talk about the Hamlet, Junior Hamlet, and his motivations and lack of confidence. When you have lack of confidence, or you're not sure about your own motives or motivations, that results into lack of confidence, and you start questioning everything. And that was exactly that happened with Junior Hamlet as well. He was not sure whether to believe what he had seen in a form of a ghost or go further. So he was still in a conflicted mind. उसका mind दो हिस्सों में अभी भी divided था. Each soliloquy is full of highly descriptive vivid imagery या images वहां पर है, introspective language है, and definitely it talks about each of the soliloquy focuses on how there is a delay in action in Hamlet's character. Now, of course, he has seen this ghost, and this ghost has told him that you need to avenge me. This ghost is his father himself, and he's not able to decide whether to avenge his father or, let go of these feelings. He's very much conflicted. And the first soliloquy reveals his hatred towards his own mother, because his mother has moved on and she has married one of his uncles called Claudius, and he considers this marriage not an appropriate marriage, because this is an incest relationship where blood relationships, they are intermingling, which is not a good outlook for Junior Hamlet. So he has this low self-esteem and image as well, and he has a great reverence or respect for his father. So each soliloquy इसी तरह से नीचे एक्सप्लेन हुई हुई है. तो जो भी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट होता है, अच्छे आर्टिकल्स के जो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट होते हैं, उसमें लिखा होता है कि पूरे आर्टिकल में क्या बात हो रही है, कैसे बात हो रही है और क्या हो रही है. नाउ इन द सेकंड soliloquy, It is concerned with Hamlet's delay of action. He's very much ashamed and he still has not avenged his father, and he is expressing such expressions or we can say reactions in the play that are questionable for the rest of the characters as well. He compares his inaction to the dramatic expression of actor exhibits to the death of his father. So he's of the view that वो उतना ही stagnant है जितना एक actor एक play में हो सकता है. Now these soliloquies are definitely bringing forth the idea of his delay of taking revenge. His soliloquies also showcases his preoccupation not only with his only thoughts that he has about revenge, but also with the problem of his procrastination and irresolution. अच्छा, आपको ये words पता है बेटे? Anybody who knows irresolution क्या हो सकता है और procrastination क्या होती है? Hmm?
Ma'am, a resolution means there is a conflict.
यस, देयर इज अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. देखिए, रेजोल्यूशन हमारे पास जो प्लॉट एनालिसिस होता है किसी भी स्टोरी का, उसका रेजोल्यूशन, सोल्यूशन या एंडिंग कहीं आनी चाहिए, कहीं
We
ना
can
कहीं
say
हमने एक्शन लेना
climax
है.
हो सकते हैं
लेकिन
इसके.
हैमलेट एक्शन नहीं ले पा रहे. जी बेटे, क्या कह रहे हो? कोई कुछ कह रहा था, आप बताएं.
Yes, ma'am. We can call it a climax or not, ma'am.
क्लाइमेक्स के बाद वाली बात हो सकती है, लेकिन यस, इट इज अ क्लाइमेटिक एक्शन वेयर ही इज नॉट श्योर व्हाट टू डू. और इसके फौरन बाद ये जो हमारा सस्पेंस क्रिएट हो रहा होगा कि जहां उसके पास इनएक्टिव करेक्टर है, तो वो एक्शन लेता है कि नहीं, वेदर वो क्लॉडियस को मारता है कि नहीं, तो डेफिनेटली क्लाइमेक्स वाले सीन तक ये पहुंच सकता है, विच डेफिनेटली कैन कॉज procrastination as well. Procrastination is that thinking about doing an action and you just keep thinking about it and you do not take any action. Procrastination एक बहुत modern terminology है जो आजकल के Gen Zs बहुत आसानी से इस्तेमाल कर लेते हैं, that I was not able to focus on my assignment because I was procrastination. So this is a good word or item, vocabulary item जो आपकी डेफिनेटली वर्ड बैंक में होनी चाहिए. ठीक है. Hamlet's soliloquies are influenced by its own plot. It is through the soliloquy that the intrinsic theme of Hamlet's procrastination is extended and realized. Without the soliloquies and asides, the play would be vacuous and sporadic, which means it will have less dramatic impact. So soliloquies जो है उसको एक dramatic impact देते हैं. They give it a momentum and etc. बाकी बेटे यहाँ से आप इसको पढ़ लीजिएगा. फिर there is an introduction about the play that I've already told you, and soliloquy has been always a trick or a strategy that writers have utilized, but it can also be treated as a theme in this particular drama. You can read from here. Now, this is important. Number three, the difference between a soliloquy and a side. I believe I've told you multiple times to actually go through the material or any material that you want to and try to understand the exact difference between a soliloquy, a side, and a monologue. And in this article, they're also clarifying it that a soliloquy is different from an aside, of course, though both in soliloquy and aside, only one character speaks. ठीक है, इनमें जो सिमिलैरिटी है कि एक करेक्टर बोलता है. In aside, some other characters remain present on the stage, but in soliloquy, none is allowed to be present on the stage. A soliloquy is also different from dramatic monologue. The soliloquy is a dramatic technique, but the dramatic monologue is a form of poetry. ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग में जो स्पीकर होता है वो एक सिंगल स्पीकर होता है और उसके सामने एक साइलेंट लिसनर भी होता है. तो ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग इसलिए बोला जाता है, ये करेक्टर्स इसलिए बोलते हैं ताकि जो लिसनर है उस ड्रामेटिक इम्पैक्ट को फील कर सके और रीडर को भी कहीं ना कहीं ये एहसास हो जाए. सो दीज थ्री थिंग्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन ऑर्डर टू अंडरस्टैंड सिरिलिकी. ठीक है. देन the soliloquy a dramatic device. They are explaining that how soliloquy is used as a dramatic device. I'll just read one or two lines from here. A soliloquy is thus a means of character revelation. Besides unfolding the inner life of the speaker, a soliloquy may also throw some light on another character by disclosing to us what the speaker thinks of that other characters or other characters. Now, this technique, soliloquy, may contribute to the development of the plot by acquainting us, by familiarizing us with what the speaker proposes to do or decides to do. जैसे अभी किसी ने बोला कि ये definitely climax की भी बात हो सकती है जहां वो procrastinate कर रहा है या there is a delay in action, तो वो अपने से ये जो soliloquies बार बार बोल रहा है, खुद से बोल रहा है, उसका मीनिंग यही है, पर्पस यही है कि वो डिसाइड करने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि वो एक्शन लेगा या नहीं. Now there are a number of soliloquies in Hamlet. Most of them are by the hero himself, and but only a few are given by the villain. So use of soliloquy के बारे में ये हम बात कर चुके हैं. Then we have the first soliloquy. हमने जिस डॉक्यूमेंट से फर्स्ट soliloquy पढ़ी थी बेटे वो ये वाला था. ये मैं आपको दिखा देती हूँ. The first soliloquy occurs before the ghost has appeared. तो यहाँ सिचुएशन वो आपको बता रहा है, राइट. अब जिस डॉक्यूमेंट से मैं पढ़ने लगी हूँ इसमें आपको एनालिसिस भी मिल रहा है, लाइंस भी ज्यादा हैं, क्योंकि यू हैड अ क्वेश्चन कि क्या सिर्फ दो दो लाइनें, तीन तीन लाइनें करनी है. तो इस डॉक्यूमेंट में हर soliloquy से 5 से 7 लाइनें होंगी. These are the lines that you need to focus, right? The first soliloquy of Hamlet occurs after the king and queen have urged Junior Hamlet to open in the open court to cast off his deep melancholy. Now, Junior Hamlet is very sad because his father has died and he's overtaken or almost possessed by this sadness and gloominess. And the new king, that is King Claudius, and Queen has ordered Junior Hamlet to let go of it. But he does not want to let go of it because he has seen his father in a form of a ghost and he's conflicted what to do and what not to do. So he finds the world to be very materialistic, and he wants to, commit suicide, but he's very much upset that it is not allowed in his religion and he cannot do so. So he uttered these words. This is on page number 11, Act 1, Scene 1. How very stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on't a fie, 'tis an unwedded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely, that it should come to this. So self-explanatory है, words से आपको समझ आ रहा है कि कह रहा है कि this world is so unprofitable, so flat. It is useless. It is unweeded garden, and it grows the seeds which are gross in nature, and they are just gross. फिर उसके बाद यहाँ पर देखें उसकी explanation दी हुई है. Junior Hamlet compares the world to an unwedded garden in which rank and gross things grow in great abundance, which means that he's not very much happy with the materialistic world and how this materialistic world is growing into the gross things. For example, modern man dilemma क्या है? Modernity का dilemma इस वक्त क्या चल रहा है? The dilemma is simple, that everybody wants to move forward and nobody cares about the dead ones or the gone ones, or सबको अपनी पड़ी हुई है. So he's not happy with the situation. He deplores the fact that his mother has remarried a man which is so much inferior to the status of his own father, and she has just moved on. So he's not happy about it because she has forgotten and moved on with her life. Even a beast would, take more time to mourn one of their partners or beloveds. So he's taking this imagery where he's making this comparison and contrast with the animals. Now, what do the animals do? When one of their pack members or partner या किसी की भी death हो जाती है, तो they have a tendency of mourning them. I've seen animals to stay with the dead bodies of their maybe mothers or siblings for a long time until unless they would start rotting. In this case, he's saying that my mother didn't wait for enough considerable time, and she moved on with Uncle Claudius, and he calls this affair an incestuous affair, which is incest. He deems this relationship to be at most or utterly disgusting, and he doesn't approve of it. And the first soliloquy also exaggerates and it also tells us, it sets the foundation for us to understand that he never takes a decision, you know, at least आखिरी या second last soliloquy में जाके वो कोई action ले पाएगा. तो these soliloquies, they also represent the delays in his character and the delays that he has in his action that he's supposed to do. So first act यानी first soliloquy में यही discussion हो रही है. Then we have the second soliloquy. Bete Hamlet's second soliloquy comes after the ghost leaves Hamlet, having charged him with the duty of taking revenge. Now he's stunned and shocked by the revelation and these echoes that his uncle is a murderer. He's still thinking about that point. Now Hamlet will soon plunge into action and carry out the behest of the ghost. Then he says, he refers to his mother as a most pernicious woman and his uncle as the smiling damned villain. तो अब अपने फादर जो नॉट फादर अपने अंकल और अपने मदर को वो इस तरह से इन वर्ड्स में generalized words में उनको represent करता है. In the second soliloquy, he says, "O most pernicious woman, O villain, villain, smiling, damn villain. My tables meet, it is I sit it down that one may smile and be a villain. At least I'm sure it may be so in Denmark." So he's a prince of Denmark, and it is given on page 23. So he's saying that this woman is his mother is a pernicious woman and his uncle is a damned villain who's sitting on the table that he made, and he's smiling and becoming a villain. In his second soliloquy, he also becomes very suspicious and curious after hearing what Ghost has revealed to him. He says, "My father's spirits in arms, all is not well. I doubt some foul play. Would the night were come, till then sit still, my soul, foul deeds will rise. Thou all the earth overwhelm them to men's eyes." So here he is vowing to himself that he'll wait for the correct moment, and his father has revealed and has come to his arms to tell him that there is a foul play. And he also says कि मुझे ये spirit इसीलिए दिखा है because there is a foul play. And he says that I would sit still and then I'll wait for the foul deeds, because foul deeds they always come out. जब भी हम कोई झूठ बोलते हैं, गलत काम करते हैं, वो somehow किसी ना किसी तरह से पकड़ा जाता है. It is also said कि झूठ के पाँव होते हैं ना. So that perspective can be here as well. इसकी analysis ये बहुत आप कह सकते हैं superficial analysis है. आप इसे expand कर सकते हैं और आपको करना चाहिए. Hamlet feels the presence of the ghost that indicates that his father died due to dubious circumstances, which means suspicious circumstances, यानी दो नंबरी हुई है किसी किस्म की. The question of his own death plagues Hamlet, as well as he repeatedly contemplates whether or not suicide is a morally legitimate action, is an unbearable, painful world, in an unbearable world. So first soliloquy में he's conflicted whether to commit suicide because he's so sad his father has died and his mother has moved on. In the second one, he gets to know that there is a foul play involved where probably his uncle has called probably nahi, exactly his uncle has called for the death or the murder of senior Hamlet. So he's conflicted. He wants to take an action, he wants to avenge, but he's still in grief and misery, that he's very much suffering and he's still thinking about committing suicide. Then furthermore, Hamlet's grief and misery is such that he frequently longs for death and he wants to end his suffering, but he fears that if he commits suicide, he will be consigned to eternal suffering in hell because of the Christian religious prohibition of suicide. जैसे इस्लाम में भी मायूसी गुनाह है, Christianity में भी definitely committing suicide गुनाह है. हमारे में ये भी हराम मौत है, तो क्रिश्चियनिटी में भी ये अलाउड नहीं है. In his famous soliloquy, To Be or Not to Be, Hamlet philosophically concludes that no one would choose to endure the pain of life if he or she will come after death, and that is this fear which causes complex moral considerations to interfere with the capacity of an action. अब उसने एक एक्शन तो लेना है, या तो उसने अंकल क्लॉडियस को मारना है, अभी वो उसके माइंड में ये बात आएगी क्योंकि उसके फादर ने इसे बोला है, या उसने खुदकुशी करनी है. ही इज नॉट एबल टू टेक एन एक्शन because he is conflicted with the moral duties towards his religion and the inner sufferings and feeling and turmoil that he's feeling because his father is dead and his father died in a foul play. Then we have the third soliloquy. Now, his third soliloquy occurs after he has a talk with another character. And in this soliloquy, Hamlet bitterly scolds himself for his continuing failure to execute his revenge. ठीक है, पहले वो ये सोचता रहा कि खुदकुशी करूं कि नहीं, और अब अपने आप को वो कोस रहा है कि वो रिवेंज क्यों नहीं ले रहा. The players shedding tears while reciting the speech descriptive of Hecuba's grief over the death of her husband signs Hamlet to the quick and makes him scold him for his inaction. अब इस सीन में क्या हो रहा है एक्चुअली कि हैमलेट एक सीन देख रहा है और वो सोच रहा है कि अगर वो करेक्टर्स ड्रामा में इतना क्विक एक्शन ले सकते हैं तो मैं इतना इनएक्टिव क्यों हूं. Hecuba is nothing to the player, and yet the player wept over her fate. He vents his anger upon his uncle by referring him to a bloody body villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain. ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लाइन है और ये वो अभी आपको इस soliloquy में वो बोलता भी है पेज 42 से 43 पे. He then dwells upon his plan to stage a play by means of which he would be able to make sure whether or not his uncle is a murderer. तो यहाँ पे वो एक स्कीमिंग और प्लॉटिंग करता है कि वो एक ऐसा सीन, ऐसा ड्रामा प्रेजेंट करेगा ऑडियंस के सामने जिसमें वही सब कुछ हुआ होगा जो एक्चुअल सीनियर हैमलेट के साथ हुआ है. Then he uttered this soliloquy and he says, out of my weakness and my melancholy, as he is very potent with such spirits, abuses me to damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this, the place, the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. So he's saying over here that I'll be portraying and illustrating the same scene that went on when my father died, and I'll catch my uncle, the new king, in the action. This soliloquy clearly reveals his incapacity for vigorous kind of action. He cannot take the action directly. देखें जो थोड़े से फाइटर माइंड के होते हैं, थोड़े से बारबैरिक होते हैं, एंग्लो सैक्सन्स जो हमने पढ़े हुए, वो सीधा सीधा जाके उनको जरा सा भी डाउट होता है ना, वो अंकल क्लॉडियस का उनको मार आते तलवार से, जिस तरह से भी मार आते हैं. However, Hamlet is a very considerable, intelligent person. He still wants to confirm that whatever he's feeling, whatever he has witnessed, whatever has been revealed to him is correct or not. So therefore, he tries to, he's talking to himself and letting the audiences know that he's going to plan this. It is hard to believe that Hamlet could not have found an opportunity to kill the king. If it were for a lack of opportunity that he has not acted so far, he would have mentioned the fact in his soliloquy. So उसके बाद बहुत मौके आए, बहुत opportunities आई कि वो actually king को मार दे, लेकिन वो उसे नहीं मारता. It is clear to use as it is to him that has prevented him from doing anything in a natural want or in a natural deficiency. He realizes that it is his own lack of gall to make oppression bitter that has stood in the way of his. अच्छा, आप में से कुछ लोग मुझसे पूछ रहे थे ना उस दिन भी कि बेटे एनालिसिस कैसे करते हैं. दिस इज हाउ यू डू एनालिसिस. देखें लाइंस हमारे पास बेटे ये है, ठीक है, लेकिन इन्हीं लाइंस का एनालिसिस करते हुए बाकी लाइंस के टेक्स्ट को भी इस तरह से इन्वर्टेड कॉमास में हम डेफिनेटली हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं. दिस इज हाउ एनालिसिस एंड एक्सप्लेनेशन इज रिटन, कि हर बात को, जो बात इस बात से रेलेवेंट हो पूरे ड्रामा में या पूरे soliloquy में या सेक्शन में, उसको कहीं ना कहीं यहाँ इनकॉर्पोरेट किया जाए और वर्ड एनालिसिस भी किया जा सकता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ही रियलाइजेस दैट इट इज हिज ओन लैक ऑफ गैल to make oppression bitter that has stood in the way of his own executing the command of the ghost. If he had not been lacking in gall, he should have fatted all the region kites with the staves offer. This is, अब ये जो टेक्स्ट है ये थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट है, ये क्योंकि ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट है, तो आप वर्ड मीनिंग देखना चाहें तो आप देख सकते हैं. So he's using this. This soliloquy thus makes it clear that are dealing with the philosopher and not with the man of action. So Hamlet is an intelligent man. देखिए दो किस्म के लोगों को हम कैटेगराइज कर सकते हैं. एक जो बारबैरिक है, सोल्जर टाइप है, सीधा सीधा मार धाड़ करके आ जाएंगे, और दूसरे टाइप कैसी होती है जो सोचती है, सोच विचार करती है और फिर कोई एक्शन लेते हैं. So that is what has been mentioned over here, that Hamlet is a man of word and a philosopher, and he's not a soldier or he's somebody who will take action quickly. He now seeks a confirmation of the ghost charge against Claudius. This is rather strange because it has taken him long to doubt the authenticity of the ghost. चार्ज तो अभी भी अथेंटिसिटी पे काम कर रहा है कि जो गोस्ट उसके सामने आया था वो एक्चुअली ट्रू था कि या फिगमेंट ऑफ हिज इमेजिनेशन था. His entertaining a doubt regarding the truthfulness of the ghost so long after the revelation was made by the ghost seems merely a pretext for further postponement. तो ये बार बार सेल्फ डाउट में जाना, बार बार इस बात को सोचना, ये डेफिनेटली उसकी एक नेचर के बारे में रेवलेशन है दैट ही इज अ प्रोक्रेस्टिनेटर एंड ही इज नॉट अ मैन ऑफ एक्शन रादर अ फिलोसोफर. ठीक है, तो इसी तरह से ये पूरी जो आपकी soliloquy है इसी तरह का एनालिसिस हो रहा है. अच्छा, अब फॉर एग्जांपल रेफरेंस टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बेटे ये लाइंस आ जाती हैं, ये 4 या जितनी भी 5 लाइनें, तो आप इसका रेफरेंस टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट कैसे लिखेंगे? यू विल राइट 3 हेडिंग्स. वो फर्स्ट वुड बी रेफरेंस इन विच यू विल राइट दैट दीज लाइंस आर टेकन फ्रॉम द प्ले कॉल्ड हैमलेट रिटन बाय विलियम शेक्सपियर. दैट्स इट. देन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप लिखेंगे कि इन लाइंस में क्या बात हो रही है. ठीक है, कौन किससे बात कर रहा है, क्या सिचुएशन है. सिंस इट्स अ soliloquy सो वी नो कि ये हैमलेट की soliloquy है, तो हम यहाँ पर वो लिख देंगे 5 से 7 लाइनों में सिंपल वर्ड्स में एक्सप्लेन कर देंगे. तो दैट दिस soliloquy clearly reveals Hamlet's inner capacity and how he's not a man of action but a man of philosophy and etc. और एनालिसिस में ये जो सारा लिखा हुआ है इस तरह का आप एनालिसिस उसमें कर सकते हैं कि उसके इस वर्ड से क्या मतलब है, उसके इस एक्शन से क्या मतलब है. तो ये सारा एनालिसिस आप रेफरेंस टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इस तरह से कर सकते हैं. देन वी हैव द फोर्थ soliloquy and this is the most important one among all of them. It is about to be or not to be. That is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end. This is a very famous soliloquy. ये जब भी आप हैमलेट सर्च करेंगे तो ये लाइन जरूर आएगी, टू बी और नॉट टू बी, विच इज अगेन द इनर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट that is going through the character of Hamlet time and again. अगर आपको डॉक्टर फॉस्टस याद हो तो उसको एक गुड एंजल और इवल एंजल उसको नजर आते थे जो उसको यही करेक्ट वे एक्सेप्ट करने में या रॉन्ग वे एक्सेप्ट करने में कायल करते थे. तो इसी तरह का इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है फिलोसॉफिकल होने में और मैन ऑफ एक्शन होने में इन हैमलेट. So his fourth soliloquy is the most famous and the celebrated one because it is philosophical. This soliloquy is based on the mental debates that he's having, and he finds himself in a dilemma and he's not able to come out of it. So this is the analysis. He asks which of the two alternative is nobler, whether silently to suffer the cruelties of the fate or put up a fight against the misfortune. वही एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है कि लाइफ में उसको या तो झगड़ना चाहिए या चुप करके सह लेना चाहिए. ही इज नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि रिवेंज लेना है कि सबर कर जाना है. It would be better perhaps to commit suicide if death were to mean a kind of total sleep and total unconsciousness. But that is not the case because he does believe in the life after death, और जो suicide करेगा तो वो फिर hell में ही जलेगा. The reason that prevents the man from committing suicide is that he does not know what is in store for him after death. It is the fear of what may happen after death that makes endure the ills and injustices of life bearable. It is for this reason. देखिए किस तरह एनालिटिकली लिख रहा है. इसमें वो ये बात नहीं कर रहा है जिस तरह आप लिखते हैं ना कि इस लाइन में राइटर ये कह रहा है कि नोबल होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए, कि सफर करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए. बहुत ही फिलोसफिकल डिबेट हो रही है. तो यहाँ से इस तरह से आपने इसको एनालिटिकली लिखना है. इट इज फॉर दिस रीजन दैट अ मैन्स रेजोल्यूशन और पावर ऑफ डिटर्मिनेशन is weakened and a man finds himself unable to execute great enterprises. This soliloquy reveals the speculative temperament of Hamlet, his irresolute and wavering mind. Irresolute वही incapacitated procrastinator kind of a mind जो हर dimension में जा रहा है, यानी एक्शन नहीं ले रहा लेकिन पता नहीं क्या कुछ सोच रहा है. This soliloquy also shows Hamlet's generalization habit of thought के एक philosopher, एक deep इंसान जब भी सोचता है ना तो वो एक दायरे में नहीं सोचता. They go out of go above and beyond. That is exactly happening what is happening over here. The line in which he gives a catalog of misfortune of life are not neat summing up of the painful features. So the entire soliloquy is dramatic in nature, and it also definitely highlights his inactive mental torture that he's going through and the internal conflict that he's definitely going through. Now, this is a philosophical interpretation of the fourth soliloquy. This is an important one, तो उन्होंने इसकी expanded explanation यहाँ पर दी हुई है. Hamlet's soliloquies and asides express his melancholic nature. He commits himself to his father's charge above all. He distrusts other. यानी एक मरे हुए शख्स में, एक ghost में वो ज़्यादा invested है instead of the people who are alive. He berates himself with guilt. He has a hard time stating a task or starting a task. He analyzes philosophically and he seeks perfection. और ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, ये आपको अपने लाइफ में भी अप्लाई करनी चाहिए. जितना परफेक्शनिस्ट इंसान होने की कोशिश करता है उतना वो प्रॉब्लम में फंसता चला जाता है. पंजाबी में इट इज सेड, सोची पे आप बंदा गया. द मोर यू थिंक, द मोर देयर आर चांसेस दैट यू वोंट बी एबल टू गेट योर रेजोल्यूशन और एंडिंग दैट यू सो डियरली एंड anxiously wants. During the course of the play, Hamlet has 6 other extended monologues. It focuses on the way 11 different 20th century actors delivered Hamlet's soliloquies. Hamlet's conscience is making him a coward by not allowing him to kill Claudius without knowing that he's justified without a doubt. तो वो मारने से पहले डेफिनेटली वो अपने माइंड में कोई भी अगर उसको सेकंड थॉट्स आ रही है तो वो क्लियर करना चाहता है. Hamlet's past cast of thoughts has continuously undermined his resolution, resulting in his action, which in turn causes him deep turmoil. This is the point in the play where Hamlet seems very noble. Definitely, एक शख्स जो अपने एक्शन को जस्टिफाई करना चाहता है और बिल्कुल अंधेधुन किसी को मारना नहीं चाहता, तो वो नोबल भी लगता है. His inaction, for which he considers himself a coward, is revealed to be derived from a deeper source of morality and goodness. ठीक है. So now he's comparing and contrasting कि yes, I am incapacitated and I am procrastinated, or I'm doing procrastination, but he does have this understanding of morality where he wants to definitely understand the good and the bad of it. In the last soliloquy, Hamlet concerns more on action. First, Hamlet accuses himself of thinking too much, resulting with no action. He wishes to cast aside the bestial oblivion. Hamlet also reveals that he does not know why he has yet to take advantage of the opportunity. यानी उसके पास बहुत सारे मौके आए लेकिन वो उसको नहीं मारता है क्लॉडियस को, और वो खुद भी क्लियर नहीं है कि वो ऐसा क्यों नहीं करता. And then there is irony. The irony lies in the fact that he continues to ponder why he has not done anything yet. मतलब वो procrastinate करता रहेगा, सोचता रहेगा मैंने ये किया, मैंने क्यों नहीं किया, लेकिन कुछ करेगा नहीं. As he concludes, the ponders too much. Hamlet relates to Fortinbras because of the similarities in their situations, but envies him because of drastically different approach he takes to honor his father. This is another story within the story. फोर्टिनब्रास, आप इनको पढ़ सकते हैं कि उसमें भी ऐसा ही होता है कि अपने फादर का वो रिवेंज ले लेता है. Hamlet refers to Fortinbras as a divine prince because he respects what he has done in the honor of his father. However, Hamlet also exhibits self-loathing in the process. Rightly to be great is not to stir without great argument, but greatly to find quarrel in straw when honors at stake. तो ये जो आप पढ़ रहे हो ना, जैसे अभी हमने ये सिंपल एनालिसिस पढ़ा, फिर फिलोसॉफिकल इंटरप्रिटेशन पढ़ी, अब यहाँ पे एक ड्रामेटिक इंटरप्रिटेशन भी है, तो इन सबको मिलाकर जो बनती है दैट इज एन एनालिसिस. ठीक है. बस मैं आपको ये लाइंस पढ़ के बताऊंगी जहां पर वो उसकी मेंटल स्टेट को डिक्लिनेशन की तरफ, यानी वो डिक्लाइन कर रही है. ही castigates himself for not taking action to avenge his father. He realizes that he has caused to kill Claudius, but cannot muster the class up to go up and go through it. He said, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain, why? What an ass am I? This is most brave that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell, must like a whore unpack my heart with words. He also expresses some doubt that Ghost was telling the truth. तो वो ऐसे बहुत ही इंटेंस वर्ड्स देखिए, रिमोर्सलेस, ट्रेशरस, लेचरस, काइंडलेस, और अपने आप को वो आस भी कह रहा है that I am just so stupid, I'm a fool. And then he says, must like a whore. Whore is a negatively used word over here and he's using it for himself. ठीक है, तो ये आपने यहाँ तक फोर्थ soliloquies पढ़ लेनी है बेटे। और नेक्स्ट क्लास में मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगी आपने इनको कैसे एक्सपेंड किया, और उसके बाद हम अगली soliloquies की बात करेंगे। इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम दीज प्लीज गो अहेड एंड आस्क। कोई सवाल है तो बेटे पूछ ले। If everything is clear, please write in the chat box that it's clear so that I know it's clear.
एक बार ये बता दें कि एनालिसिस हम कैसे करेंगे।
बेटे जैसे इस डॉक्यूमेंट में लिखा हुआ है, आई हैव रिकॉर्डेड द क्लास एज वेल। आप उस रिकॉर्डिंग को ना दोबारा सुन सकते हैं, अगर कोई बात मिस हो गई है तो इसी तरह से करना है। यानी कि मैं आपको एक दफा बताती हूँ, ये देखिए, अगर आपके पास ये लाइंस आ जाती है ना, यू कैन सी सम लाइंस ऑन द स्क्रीन राइट नाउ, वेट प्लीज। जैसे ये लाइंस आ जाती हैं, दीज आर द लाइंस इन योर पेपर दैट एनालाइज दीज लाइंस विद रेफरेंस टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड एक्सप्लेन द सिचुएशन एंड एक्सेट्रा। तो सबसे पहले बेटे आप रेफरेंस में लिखोगे कि दीज लाइंस आर टेकन फ्रॉम द प्ले हैमलेट रिटन बाय शेक्सपियर, दैट्स इट। ठीक है, फिर सेकंड हेडिंग आएगी कॉन्टेक्स्ट की। कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप क्या लिखेंगे, यू विल टॉक अबाउट दैट हु इज अटरिंग दीज लाइंस, और वो ये क्यों कह रहा है, थोड़ा सा कॉन्टेक्स्ट। जैसे ये लाइंस जो है ये इसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट हो सकती है कि इन दीज लाइंस हैमलेट इज गोइंग थ्रू दिस एंड दैट एंड ही इज टॉकिंग टू गॉड, ओ गॉड एंड एक्सेट्रा। ठीक है, ये आपकी वो इसको कह सकते हैं आप आपका कॉन्टेक्स्ट हो गया। और फिर जब एनालिसिस होगा तो वो इस तरह से होगा, जहां वो कंपेयर कंट्रास्ट करेगा, दूसरी लाइंस को रेफर करेगा। सो दिस इज हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू राइट एनालिसिस और द एक्सप्लेनेशन। सो यू विल हैव थ्री sections in reference to the context type question. First is reference, जिसमें आप दो लाइनों में बताओगे कि कहाँ से लिया है। अगर आपको एक्ट और सीन नंबर भी पता है तो वो भी ऐड किया जा सकता है, लेकिन वो क्योंकि याद रखना मुश्किल है तो इनकरेक्ट लिखने से अच्छा है ना लिखा जाए। फिर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप बताएंगे कि हु इज टॉकिंग टू हु, इफ इट इज अ ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग, असाइड और अ soliloquy एंड व्हाट इज बीइंग सेड। तो कुछ प्लेन लाइनों में, सीधे वर्ड्स में 5 से 7 लाइनों में आप कॉन्टेक्स्ट बता देंगे कि कौन किससे बात करे। फिर इस तरह से आप एनालिसिस करेंगे, उसमें और बातें इंकॉर्पोरेट करेंगे और वो एनालिसिस या एक्सप्लेनेशन बन जाएगी। ठीक है, और इसकी लेंथ क्या होगी ये डिपेंड करेगा स्कोर्स पे। अगर 8-9 नंबर हैं तो डेफिनेटली थोड़ा सा आप एक्सपैंडेड लिखोगे, अगर उससे कम है तो थोड़ा सा कम भी लिख सकते हैं, डिपेंड करता है ऑन द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द मार्क्स। ठीक है बेटे।
अगर उन्होंने ड्रामेटिक इंटरप्रिटेशन या फिलोसफिकल इंटरप्रिटेशन पूछनी है तो उसके लिए सेपरेट क्वेश्चन करेंगे, वो हमने एनालिसिस में नहीं लिखना है ना।
ऑब्वियसली वो ऐसे टाइप क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा, जब रेफरेंस टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट होगा ना तो उसके लिए आपने ये हेडिंग्स 3 बनानी है। लेकिन अगर क्वेश्चन ओपन एंडेड है ना कि एनालाइज द फोर्थ soliloquy फॉर ड्रामेटिक एंड फिलोसफिकल इंटरप्रिटेशन, तो फिर आप उसे ऐसे टाइप, यानी ये जो एनालिसिस लिखा है जैसे एसेज हम अटेम्प्ट करते हैं उसी तरह से करेंगे। अच्छा
ठीक
बेटे,
है, ओके मैम।
ओके यू वेलकम। दिस इज सेक्शन सी राइट? ओके,
यस।
ओके, बी अटेंटिव फॉर योर रोल कॉल। मजहर अली, सुहेब खान, सुहेल खान,
Yes, ma'am.
अल्ताफ, अल्ताफ हैं बेटे, आतिफ रहमान,
प्रेजेंट मैम।
एक सेकंड मैं आपको ये दिखा भी देती हूँ, नहीं चले छोड़े। मोहम्मद उस्मान,
Yes, ma'am.
ईशा ईमान,
Present.
सिबातुल हसन, नजफ मुर्तजा, शाहनूर कलसूम,
Present, ma'am.
अरीशा जलील,
Present, ma'am.
हफ्सा शहजादी,
Present, ma'am.
तमसील गफूर, बिदरार अहमद,
Yes, ma'am.
मोहम्मद खुशनून,
Present, ma'am.
मोहम्मद अब्बास, कायनात अब्बासी,
प्रेजेंट।
ओके, मोहम्मद उमर, रीम अजहर, अहमद अफाफ,
प्रेजेंट मैम।
मैम मेरा नाम नहीं लिया।
नखैस रसल। जी बेटे आपका क्या नाम है?
मोहम्मद उमर।
लिया मैंने, आपका नाम नहीं लिया, चले उमर लगा दिया मैंने आपकी, ठीक है। अहमद है, अच्छा नखैस रसल है,
प्रेजेंट। यस मैम।
ओके। हूर कामरान,
Yes, ma'am.
तौहीद अहमद, मारिया बीबी,
प्रेजेंट।
शहाबुद्दीन,
Present, ma'am.
नूर फातिमा, नादिया हकीम।
Present.
Okay, so that is your attendance. Attendance has been taken. That will be all. If you have any questions, please पूछ लीजिए। कोई सवाल है तो पूछ लें प्लीज। अच्छा, मंडे की क्लास में बेटे, मंडे या ट्यूसडे जब भी हमने मिलना है, उस क्लास में आपने डेफिनेटली अपनी इंटरप्रिटेशन मुझसे शेयर करनी है कि आपको क्या समझ आई इन लाइंस में। थोड़ी सी तैयारी करके पढ़ कर आना है। छोटी सी मिनी प्रेजेंटेशंस हो जाएंगी सो दैट आई नो कि आपको कुछ ना कुछ समझ आ रहा है, राइट? ओके, नो क्वेश्चंस
Okay,
देन।
ma'am.